Welcome to Guest Talks with Tracy Arbon, bringing you special guest interviews from musictalks.xyz.
We are here with the ghostly beard, the man with no face, except he does have a face. I can see your face.
Yeah,
Oops.
yeah, that's scary, isn't it?
It's not scary. It's not scary.
Yeah, I suppose it is. It's yeah, and as I said, you know, what's good about it is the mystery of it. You know, once you've passed the mystery, somehow you've lost something. You know, so
I agree.
that's why I don't want people to see it, and it's just fun to hide some. Well, not hide. I'm not hiding actually. I'm very present everywhere. But just to say, listen to the music and also have fun with the images, you know. So
yeah. And so what made you come up with the idea?
What idea? The idea of not showing myself and having this logo and everything. Well, it started as just the idea that basically I didn't really fancy putting my ugly mug on the web, on the internet. When I started doing my website, I was looking at, you know, and I thought, well, what's the point of putting my face in close up on my website? I mean, everyone is doing that, right? And for the first thing is that I don't want to do things like everyone else. Because why do that? You know, if you can do things differently, that's how you're going to be recognized as, you know, as unique. Yourself, as unique. Exactly. So that was the first idea. I didn't want that. I wanted to be. So I used all sorts of images of shadows and stuff like that. And as well, the fact that I couldn't use my own name, which is Patrick Talbot, because it was already taken on the .com was taken. All the social media accounts were taken, or almost. So I looked around and I was looking. I was trying to find a name that would be fun and that could convey this idea of being invisible and being somehow in the shadows, somehow someone who's doing things but doesn't really want to be in the spotlight as such.
Yeah, and encourage them to listen.
Exactly, that was really my idea. I was, you know, I'm old enough to have been into music when there was when it was really not on TV, there was no internet and everything. So it was radio and it was, you know, LPs, and that's what I was listening to. And the only information we had about the artist was the album cover, and it was great. We were really diving into that, and it was all about the listening experience and the shared listening experience as well with other people, you know. Yeah. And sharing that to friends and saying and having, you know, spending evenings with friends where there was always music in the background, and we were listening to that and playing board games or whatever, you know, at the time. And it was really the experience I had, and I wanted to convey the idea that music is the important thing in what I do. And you know, it has changed, and I think it has changed since the start of MTV. MTV placed the video and the image in front of and as something which is more important than anything else. And videos were fun. Some of them were really great, like Peter Gabriel did some really awesome stuff, and some others as well. And Thrillers, for example, there were some really nice, really well thought of video. Most of them were just, you know, and the band was lip syncing on top of the song. That was really not very interesting, and I was fed up of that. And nowadays it's even worse. Everything goes through the image, and you need to look like a top model, or you know, I would need heavy surgery to be able to have any chance in this music business, you know. So, well, forget it. So that's all about it. And then I found this funny icon of the logo that I'm using, which is an icon. I found it on the internet on a website which is called the Noun Project, I think. And you can license an icon for usually it's for business purpose, for commercial or brands or whatever. And I was looking at various stuff. At first, I was looking at all sorts of animals. I found a ghostly bear, but this was taken as well. Okay, because I'm a big old bear, you know. So it was taken as well. I thought of eerie cat, of what was it?
Eerie cat.
Sorts of things. Yeah, there was the rare owl, and I wanted to kind of use all of these as different identities, and use and group them all on a label that was called Humble Zoo, you know. So that was my idea. Except that it's Humble Zoo, like humble, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Humble Zoo, and I thought it was great. It was, you know, it was going to be the kind of label, and underneath there would have been the eerie cat, which was more jazz stuff, and the ghost bear, which would have been more rock, you know. And there was all sorts of identities like that. And
the cat could have been great. You know why? Because you could have just, let people know about your mood on the day. Cat. Either your mood or your or, you know.
Yeah, there could have been some weird noises, but not only that, but the cat is a jazz player usually.
Absolutely.
So I thought it was a play on these kinds of ideas, but I thought that it was going to be too much trouble to use many identities. It was going to be so much hassle.
I agree.
From one account to another and everything, and so in the end, I found this icon, which is the one I use now, and it looked like a beard. Well, I was looking for beards, okay. And I found this one, and I thought, wow, that's cool. It looks like a beard, but it looks like a ghost, like an alien, like a mask, like whatever you can think of. And it's exactly what I want. It's that people can put any kind of interpretation on that. They can think that the fact that I'm named Ghostly Beard is because my beard is ghostly, or it's me that is a ghost, and it's all kind of interpretations like that. And I like that because it makes people use their imagination, which is what is probably missing nowadays, you know. So
absolutely. And I also like the idea of when you say you know, it's about getting back to listening to the music. Now, quite often I actually like to close my eyes when I'm listening to music, and I actually like to listen to music on a very low volume, because anything anything sounds great pumped up. You know,
exactly.
Until you're really used to it, and then you become quite, you know, I guess, deafened by the quality. You don't know what you're hearing anymore if it's pumped up too loud.
Exactly.
So,
and this is a trick I've learned, because I've learned a lot about audio engineering in the past few years. I've spent tons of hours learning about audio, learning about critical listening, which is something really important when you want to mix and master and do your own recordings, and something that you really need to practice as well. And I've learned about that, and you need to listen at various levels when you mix. You need to know how it works when it's pumped up, but most of the time when you mix, you need it to be at a quite low level. And when you really, and sometimes even some tests you want to do them at very low level, like you have the whisper test, for example. The whisper test is very important because when you low down the volume on headphones, for example, and you lower down the volume, the last thing you should hear is the vocal, actually. And gives you the right level for the vocal. If you still vaguely hear the background, but you hear the vocal and you still can hear what it says, then it's at the right level. And there's all sorts of things like that you can learn from listening critically and listening at various volumes, and blasting it off is not. It can be very satisfying for a while, but it's going to fry your ears for a while. Yeah, and then you especially with the music that we have nowadays, which is heavily compressed, So most of this heavy compression is pushing a lot of air pressure in your ears, and it's quite bad, and it's fatiguing as well for your ears. So it's especially the level of.
But it does the whole track. I mean, it can also make a big difference to the rest of the other what's behind you singing as well. So it could pop out different kind of sounds that you really necessarily don't need to be having.
And I think what makes music great is dynamics as well. If there's no lows, then you cannot appreciate the highs. If there's no low level, when it gets rocking, then you won't feel it basically.
And that all comes back.
It's at the same level, at the same loudness, then everything is just basically bland. So what's the point? I mean, after a while, it gets all tiring and boring, basically,
And it becomes there's just no emotion in a lot of the songs either. I've actually found a lot of the new stuff. When I'm talking new, I'm talking about mainly the commercial stuff that we hear. It's just lacking emotion. It's just focused on the perfection of either how something is actually recorded, and people seem to forget that. Sometimes, and I know this as well, that sometimes your demos end up being better than your finals, and there is a reason for it, and it's because perhaps they were could be emotion, it could be some of the notes. Some people would just focus on those perfection of their notes, and you lose a lot of the other really important stuff that's needed in the song in getting back to the music.
That's true, but I would say that I'm quite perfectionist as well. I like to have everything really sounding not perfect, but at least as nice as possible.
But you don't use auto-tune.
No, I sometimes I will tune a few notes, which I might have retract a few things, and I'm just tired of it, and I'm gonna but I do that manually. Okay, because you can do that in Cubase. You have now the what's called it, Very Audio, I think it's called, and you can tune it, but very, very slightly, and it's only manual.
It's
I don't want
minimal.
anything that is like like straight lines.
Like you hear a lot of them that use
these
as effects
are
too.
Crazy, it's not even human anymore, and that's. But and what's crazy, I was reading about that is. Young people nowadays, they have started to actually naturally sing like that. They sing with like very sharp differences. There's no notes will go up and down, but there will be some in between, and they have this thing that more and more the young people, because they have so much of this sound in their ears, they tend to auto-tune themselves when they sing naturally.
It's
crazy.
Bizarre.
It is
really, really bizarre.
It is.
Oh dear. Now, actually, I did notice, coming back to the point of recording your vocals, I do notice with all your mixes and everything that you've done, that I've heard, that your vocals, I love the way that you've recorded them as far as how they're popping right through the centre. And I remember in way back times, this would always want to make sure that vocals popping through the centre. So it's really out there. And a lot of other stuff that I've heard, it just doesn't do that anymore. They seem to want to spread it across the track.
They use a lot of various stereo spreading techniques and doubling and all sorts of things like that, which are also, some of them are automatic, but there is also, you have programs right now that you can record a few vocals, even if the timing is wrong, even if the pitch is wrong. You will be able to match everything perfectly in the end with the various tracks and make that sound like it was just the perfect take for all of them. But they sound a bit robotic in the end, and a lot of producers nowadays they use a lot of that spreading, stereo spreading everywhere. I think that's a bit too much. I like some stereo spread, and I would use sometimes doubling my own voice.
Doubling's always been in, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We've always
I would use parallel compression to bring some more of. I prefer to use parallel compression than just compression on the vocal, but try and keep some dynamics, but have some more body to the voice as well, and delays are the best, even better than reverb actually.
Yeah. So I just want to talk about going back from where you began in France, and who influenced you with the jazz side of your music?
Well, one of the guys that really influenced me was Michael Franks. This guy he's really very underrated now, and is mostly forgotten. And I think it's a shame, because he was an amazing artist. This guy, I think he started in the early 70s, maybe end of the 60s, and he was quite big in the 70s and even the 80s, I think.
Right.
But then I don't know, something went wrong. But he had this kind of, he was quite a poet, and he had almost all of his songs had a lot of double entendre and loads of.
I just love that accent.
Yeah. What accent?
We went through this once before, didn't we?
I don't know. I know people say to me, "Well, you have an accent." No,
you have the accent. No, you have the accent.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Double entendre. It's something which is it was always, you'd never really know what he was talking about. But there was a lot of sexy things going on, in all these. But he was so clever. His lyrics were absolutely awesome, and the music. He was quite a good jazz player and musician. But he was also in the same kind of area of influence as Steely Dan or people like the Doobie Brothers or these kinds of people, and he was always in all of his early recording, especially in the 70s. He was always with the best jazz session musicians you can imagine. There was people like Jeff Porcaro, Michael Brecker, or David Sanborn. These kinds of people were playing on his records, and the quality of the playing was really something else. So I don't know why he's been so forgotten nowadays. He's not playing anymore, I know that, but still he's been quite a big star at the time, and so I was listening to a lot of that. I was listening to Steely Dan, of course, and but also more some other purely jazz things like Miles Davis, or John Coltrane, or or even bebop for the time, and reports, or I had the chance being in France, in the south of France, where I was living. I was just a few miles away from two huge jazz festivals. One is Juan Les Pins, which is quite well known worldwide actually, and the other is Nice Cimier. In Cimier they have this kind of it's in the Roman arena, and they have this big thing, and everyone can go there and actually jam with the stars and jam with the people. They are all in the gardens, and you can jam with anyone who is okay with it. And it was so amazing, What
a great idea to bring that back.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be just amazing?
Great. And the fact was that at the time I was playing with another a friend of mine who was a guitarist, and during the day we were playing in restaurants, and we were playing all sorts of jazz standards and bossa nova and things like that. And in the evening, each evening, and that was all summer, and in the evening we were going to either Cimier or Juan Les Pins to these festivals. So we've seen all the best and the greatest, And for years I've been doing that. And then when I moved to Lyon, which is in the south of France, it's not very far from another very well-known jazz festival, which is the Vienne Festival. And now I'm living in Montreal, and there's also a jazz festival. So it's always there somehow, you know. So jazz, it's always been there for me, and it's something that, as much as I love all sorts of music, the kind of music I do is still somehow a little bit influenced by that, because especially with the harmonies, because I, as much as I can, I cannot play straight. You know, I mean, when I say straight, it's like rock, like you will be on the beat, you know. Well, but jazz is a little bit more what you call
flexibility.
So I'm gonna swing it somehow, and especially with harmonies as well. It's hard for me to play a major chord or a minor chord.
Yeah.
I need to add a seventh, I need to add a ninth or 13th, something, or some augmented.
Yeah.
Just to add some tension to it, just to add some richness to it, to some depth, depth. So that's what I love to do, and it's still there. Even when I'm doing something that is more akin to rock, progressive rock, so I need that kind of tension and that kind of harmonic.
Yeah, but when you grew up, with your parents played classical music, I believe. Is that?
Well, they weren't playing, but they were big fans of all sorts of music, and especially classical music, and also Broadway musicals and musicals in general. So my mother especially was a big fan of musical, and my older brothers loves musical as well. So yeah, it was there. And then I have two older brothers. One is 7 years older than me, another is 8 years older than me. And when I was, I don't know, 8 years old, I think they were already in their teens, and they were listening to the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and this kind of thing. It was the 70s, you know, so they were into that. And so they made me listen to all of these things. So from the age of 8, I was already listening to all sorts of various music, and I loved it already, you know.
Including The Sound of Music.
Especially The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music was a big influence on me, and I was so in love with Julie Andrews. I can tell you that.
We have so much in common.
I still am in love with her. She's just an amazing lady. I love her. I love her to be, and Sarah is in love with her too. She's a great lady. I mean, she's and yeah, from that period on, I've been listening to classical music, but jazz, progressive rock. I had a period where I was listening to punk rock when it was just in the 70s, end of the 70s, 77, when it was Sex Pistols and Damn and everything. I was into that.
My mother introduced me to the Sex Pistols. How cool was that?
Yeah,
you know.
Well, yeah, that is. My mother certainly didn't, you know. So the Sex Pistols was something. But it was I was in my teens then, so it was very much a kind of rebellion thing for me as well. So it was kind of a punk as well. And then I listened to a lot of hard rock and Deep Purple and Aerosmith and these guys and then I moved on to progressive rock, and then I moved on to jazz and fusion and all sorts of like that. But at the same time, I was always trying to learn all these styles, all these genres, because I wanted to be my dream was to be a session musician. And when you want to be a good session musician, you should be able to play any genre, any style, you know. So you need to be able to play when the session just starts, you need to be on, you know. There's no whatever the style it is. So
get in and get out.
Flamenco, I learned to play bossa nova. I played all sorts of things, and it was fun, and I was getting really good at this, you know. So for years, and I've been really working hard for that, you know. I was working like 8 to 10 hours a day. Practicing and doing nothing but that, and my parents were really very anxious and not really happy about it because I was really negliging everything else, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And
as you do, when you find the love that you love to do, you do it, don't you?
You go 100% or not, and I was 100% or maybe even 200% in there. And my parents were a bit worried about that because there was really no opportunities at the time, especially where I was living. I should have moved to Paris, maybe.
Your parents, were they pretty strict?
Right, yeah. They were pretty strict, and they pushed me to try and go, find a job first, and so at the time it was really the first synthesizers were out. So I was in that, and I was interested in the sounds. So this is how I ended up being into computers because all I wanted was to learn how to program synthesizers, So I thought it was going to be the same thing. Actually, not, but well, that's another story.
You work as well, you're into the synthesizers. Mm-hmm. How did you record this album in amongst you being able to work? As many musicians
to be honest,
I suppose.
I started getting back to music because I had a big gap of music for 15 years where I didn't really do anything, and I was really not capable of. I didn't have a drive anymore, nor the will, nor the energy to do any kind of music. And then only since 2011, I think, when when we were here and we moved from, I separated from my wife and my own business, because I created my own company, was starting to be stable enough to give me some time off. Right. I thought that it was the time to go back to it. So from that moment on, I bought some recording gear, a good computer, and good mix, and everything that I needed, and I started getting back to it. And from that moment on, basically every month or so, I've been recording a new song, writing and recording. So I have this big back catalog, actually. With I don't know, more than 40 songs, and some of them I've already released, and this album I'm going to release. But these songs were recorded on at various times. I've been revisiting them and remixing them, and in some kind of retracking. I've retracked the vocals on one of these songs lately, not long. This for around Christmas. So all of these were already there.
Yeah.
But I made a special effort with the mixing, and then sometimes I've added some overdubs as well and things like that to make them a whole and to make them an album, basically. Yeah. So this is how I had the time, and I still keep trying to do that. Usually I do that on the weekends. When Sarah is not there, actually, because then I have some time to experiment, basically, and do things in my studio, and I have all sorts of ideas going on, and some of them will go nowhere. Some of them might end up being the next song I work on, So.
Yeah, and this just brings me to my next question. Do you select from a lot of songs and choose your best 10, or do you go on the ones that you personally like, or a combination of both? How do you select the songs that make your album?
Well, I think I try to select the ones that go best with each other. Okay, try to make something that is cohesive enough.
So it becomes a journey for people, I suppose. So each album is a journey.
So that it has some kind of progression, some kind of journey inside. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the first EP that I did was progressive, and the songs, I think, were working together, and they formed some kind of a theme, which was quite kind of a space-time, life and death oriented. It was kind of a grandiose thing, and it was fun, but that was kind of the idea behind it, and then the next one, I wanted to show a different facet of what I do, which is I love jazz, and I still play it, and I still. So I wanted to show that, and I wanted to show various shades of jazz as well, not only just you know. So I took all the songs that I did that were kind of in that mood and have some kind of progression. But this one is perhaps, I don't know, is the one that I'm gonna release is the one that probably I'm gonna say it's the one that I wanted to release from the first from the get-go. It's the one that I wanted people to listen to, because it's probably the one that is the most personal and the most that represents me the most. It's really my style and my sound, the one I have the most into. And it's kind of a combination and a culmination of all these years doing music and listening and writing and trying to perfect my craft, basically. And this is the one that I wanted to do first, except that I knew that if I was doing that, it would be totally ignored. So I thought I'm going to start with something to give an idea to people of what I'm doing. And then I'm going to show another side of what I'm doing, and then I'm going to release that, which is really what I do. Okay, so that was really the idea behind releasing this one third. I wanted people to know about me a little bit, or to have at least maybe heard one or two things about me first, and then I want to promote that one. I want people to hear it as much as possible, because I believe in it. I believe it's the best one I've done, and I think I've put on that one some of my best songs, and the one that are more personal and there is some kind of cohesion as well. It's really me. So I don't know. It's just, I believe in this one. I don't know.
Yeah. So talking about your songs, The Love in Your Eyes. Can you tell everybody what this one is about? I know it's very, very personal to you. Speaking of personal
it is personal, but I don't mind telling people about it. It's called The Love in Your Eyes, and I think that most people, when they just hear it for the first time or don't know about it, will assume that it's about some kind of breaking up with a loved one or something like that, you know. And it's fine. It's fine that people will think that, and they can imagine any kind of. It's always the same thing. I like people to imagine, to use their imagination with music, you know. So if they think that, it's fine. But the truth is that it's really a song about my mom. It's dedicated to her. And it's a song I wrote a couple of years ago when I was thinking about her, and it's about, especially about my last experience with her, because I live in Montreal in Canada now, but my family is still in France, in the south of France, and so it's. I go there when I can, but usually not that regularly. So last time I went there, it was in 2012.
Right.
We went together with Sarah, and when we went to visit her, she was in a retirement home, and she was suffering from dementia. She when we went to see her, she didn't really recognize me, nor she didn't recognize my daughter. She was really already gone, basically, you know. And for me, it was really hard, because I knew that basically it would be the last time I saw her, and it was when we came back to the to Canada. It was really hard for me to come back, and fortunately Sarah was with me, so it ended up with she kept my mind out of it, but it was hard, and effectively a few months later she died. So that's why I'm talking about the fact that I couldn't see the love in your eyes anymore, and that's the chorus about, and that's what it is about. So,
and I think, you know, as you said, many people can relate to that song, and it depends on the situation and what they're going through at the time, and that's what's really good about music too.
Exactly. That's what I love about music. Well, people can put their own story what you're saying, and the more not generic, because you still need to have some images and some powerful poetry or images in your lyrics, but people can put whatever is related to them and with your and to the life into what you've been singing, and they can sing it, and it can mean something totally different for them, and that's great. That's what makes music the best thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the rest of the album is going to be released a little bit later.
Yeah, it's going to be released May 4th. And someone told me it was Star Wars Day, so I'm sorry for them. But it's going to
may the 4th be with you. There might be something behind that.
It's supposed to be a day, and that's it. Sorry, George Lucas, but yeah.
Get those other hashtags going.
Too bad for you. So whatever, I don't know. It wasn't intentional anyway. It's like that. It's not a problem. But anyway, it's going to be available in pre-order from March 2nd, actually. So people will be able to order it from my website, and also from Amazon and iTunes and Bandcamp and CD Baby. And they will be able to order physical CD as well. And actually, all the sales of the album are going to go to a charity here in Canada, which is called Music Counts. It's a charity that helps with music education, especially in schools, and to provide instruments to schools and to teachers, and to help teachers with all sorts of materials, and they organize all sorts of events to help musical education. So it's something that is dear to me, obviously, and I wanted to give back like that.
You're so kind, Ghostly Beard. You're one of those kindest people that I know, I think, and how much you give back. You also, I can see, if anybody's wondering why we're also laughing about certain things, Sarah is sitting in the background, holding up notes. And what I don't, Sarah, they're actually backwards, so I can't actually read them. You have to write backwards so I can read them. It's like a mirror effect.
I'm sure she doesn't. She just writes things and she shows.
And I'm trying to read them backwards. I'm going, I can't quite read that. Yeah, what was that? Hang on, she's holding up another one. And that's something. Oh my God, I can read that. Thank you.
Yeah, you could read that finally. Yeah, she made an effort this time. She actually wrote it in reverse. So
I could read that. So Sarah, and talking about Sarah, she's sitting in the background there. And speaking of education as well, your daughter is following your footsteps in the music world. So so I guess you've been a big influence on her as well. So. She's nodding in the background there. How much do you think that's helped her, like with everything you're doing?
I don't know in terms of influence. I know that what I've always told her is to
a lot
is to go is to go and follow a dream and to go 100% with it. You cannot expect to do half things. If you want
you've got to go for
somewhere, you go full on not at all. And so I want her to pursue a dream. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. It's really a crapshoot. I'm lucky because I'm old now, but I have my own company, and I'm not in the street, and I fear nothing except that I'm gonna die sometimes soon, somehow. But apart from that, I don't need the money, and this is why I'm giving it back, because I'm not in it for the money.
Yeah.
Although I think that music shouldn't be free, which is why I want to sell it, but for charity. I want the message clear that music shouldn't be free, and but I don't need the money for myself. That's not why I do it. So that was a good idea. And as for Stara, I think I want her to pursue a dream, and it might work, might not work. She needs to work hard.
I was just going to say, you do need to work hard, and a lot of it also is
hard. And sometimes I'm thinking, well, she's not working hard enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm pushing her sometimes, but I want to, be some kind of a pushy parents to say, yeah, you need to do it. But that's up to her. But she needs to realize that there are so many talented people who are in there 100% and giving more than that and busting their ass off for that she needs to do that if she wants to go anywhere, so well, the thing is that she's good at school as well, and she's into she's got good grades. She's looking at going to Cégep, which is some kind of I don't know, it's pre undergraduate school, here.
Right.
So she's just been registering on that today, and there's no reason why she wouldn't be find a good one. But she's taking dance. She's been taking dance class since the age of, I don't know, four, and then she's been taking all sorts of Broadway theater classes, and now she's doing all sorts of theater classes, and she's been taking singing lessons as well with a teacher here, and she's following your great class as well for singing.
Thank
you.
Well,
loves it. She's actually really doing the exercise and everything more than me, actually. Sorry. But yeah, that's great. And we'll see where it goes.
Good to hear, Sarah.
Yeah. No, she's working, and she never wants me to hear anything of that. She goes in the other room, which is at the end of the apartment, and she goes there and she closes the door because she doesn't want me to hear any of her rehearsal or anything. So she's always coming back from that room and asks me, did you hear anything? And I say, no, I don't hear anything.
But secretly we might.
Exactly. So yeah, I hope that she will pursue her dreams, and there's nothing better than do what you love.
And finding your purpose. I think that's a really big one,
And she knows that it's not easy, and she knows that maybe she will end up being a cashier for sometimes, and between gigs or between theater production or whatever. And she knows that, but she's fine with that, and I think that she needs to be.
As soon as you
I
sort
will
of
be there anyway to support, so.
Yeah, and as soon as I think you accept that, okay, I might have to do something in the meantime just to help me live and eat. You focus. You remain focused on your end goal.
Don't dream that you're going to be big from one day to the next, because it doesn't happen that way.
It's all about the longevity.
Exactly. It's all about giving the best you can, and work and sweat and passion and and then some luck, yes, but
none of us get anywhere without hard work. And also, as you probably know, I always like to do things differently. So if there's always a way, always think outside the square, outside the box, because you could be constantly following and just doing what other people are doing. But
then
if you do that, you get lost in the crowd.
Yeah.
So why not try something new?
You need to have your own thing. Yeah. Otherwise, people, why would they be interested in what you do? If you do the same thing as all the others, why not the others?
And you've got to offer something different. You've got to offer other people value, and
she said she has some good facial expressions. She does all sorts of weird faces. So she said that's my. I put that on my resume. So we'll see.
Really? Well, that'll certainly get some attention.
Yeah, probably.
Love to talk about where you're from and some of these pictures. I haven't been to Europe for a long time. I just love the scenery over there and the architecture, and of course, in Australia, the country is very young, so we just don't have that kind of architecture. But
here in Canada too, it's not very, very. It's not very sophisticated. It's a whole different weather, which means that construction is a little bit different, probably, But I'm sure that if you shared some of your pictures of your neighbor, I would find them very exotic as well.
Well, and see, we take for granted the fact that early morning we would get a kangaroo on our front lawn, and
I would be completely look at that.
I remember
it would be amazing for us.
I have.
We have some raccoons. That's
incredible. Raccoons.
Raccoons are they are in even in town you can find them. They often go in the bins and try to steal things. And we've got squirrels and things like that, but nothing that exotic as a kangaroo. I mean,
you see, I love raccoons. We just don't have raccoons here, but I just think it's quite funny that with your weather, I mean, you have a lot of snow, and why? I know when I visited the States and in Canada, I've got family in Canada too, actually, in Toronto. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I just noticed, and I always wonder, why are the staircases outside of the building? I mean, isn't that dangerous?
Well, the thing is that, I think historically it's coming from the fact that most of these constructions were made of wood, okay. And at the start of the century, maybe, or even before that. So most of these are made of wood, and so you need to have an exit outside, basically. Yeah. So you need to have a staircase outside to be able to evacuate when there is a fire, because fire would propagate very quickly from one, because they are all linked together. All these streets, you have all the houses are one on top of the other, basically, and so they were all made of wood, most of it. So in case of fire, you had to add a way to evacuate. So I think that's the reason behind the fact that there was so much of these staircases are outside.
Right. I'm surprised, like, nobody's thought of having big long poles outside. You can just jump out the window and slide down a pole.
It's easier, like a fire. What they have in the fire station.
Yeah. See, I always think like that. I don't think down the middle. But and you also, this beautiful lake. Can you explain the St. Lawrence River?
Yeah, it's a river, and it's real just down the street from here. It's on about 100 meters from where we live, and it's a huge river. Well, where we are here, it's actually not very, very wide, because we have what is called the Île des Sœurs, the Sisters Island, which is in the middle. So the river is actually going on the side of it, and so we are quite close to the Île des Sœurs. Mm-hmm. But actually, the St. Lawrence itself is huge. It's one of the, I think it's one of the second biggest or longest in North America, and it goes from the Great Lake down to the Atlantic, and where it starts to really get hugely wide is from Quebec, which is about 200 kilometers east from here. And it goes to the what they call the Delta, which is big. It gets wider and wider, and basically at this point above Quebec, you cannot even see the other side of it.
Wow.
It's like a sea, basically.
Can you swim in there?
So big it is. There are some places where you can, but for one it's quite cold most of the time. And you actually got whales and beluga. You know, the beluga whales. Wow. They come and get up the river quite far. Actually, you can see them a little bit north of Quebec. You can go on a trip on a boat, and you will see the whales in there. So it's quite cold water.
I would imagine, looking at some of these photos. It'd be pretty cold.
Yeah,
at least there'll be no sharks in there. If there were whales, apparently, is that true? No sharks?
No sharks, no, I don't think so. But whales, there's quite a lot of dolphin and whales and all sorts of things like that. So it's nice to be just around that. Before that, I was living in Lyon, and there were two rivers. One was the Rhône, the other is the Saône, and they actually join inside of Lyon. So it was the big joining of these two rivers where they have built the city, actually.
Right.
So I've always been near some kind of big chunk of water, basically. From the Mediterranean Sea to here, it's quite nice.
So can I ask, do you play guitar?
Yeah.
You do? Do you go down by the river and...
No, I don't think so.
Sarah's in
no,
the
well, especially not this time of the year, you know. If you want to play guitar outside with this time of the year, you need big gloves, you know. So it's not very not very good for the sustain or all the the sound of the notes. I don't think it is. So yeah.
Why did you move to Canada?
Oh, that's a big question. Actually, well, we've had all sorts of problem in France. As I said, I moved to Lyon. Then I married there. Then my father died. Then my wife's father died. No, mother died first, and then her father. And then she had cancer when we married. She had ovarian cancer, so she couldn't have a child, which is how we adopted Sarah. But it wasn't that easy, so we had all sorts of troubles. And we lost our job. She lost her job first, then 2 years later I lost mine. And it was a very difficult social climate in France as well. There was this kind of big thing in France where Le Pen, which is the extreme right wing, actually came to be in the second turn of the presidential elections. So for us, it was really something that made us think that we want to go out of this country. It's getting, because these guys, they are just like Trump and or even worse, they are kind of Nazi oriented, and we didn't want to raise our child in this country anymore with this social climate. So we looked around, and I was working on open source software at the time, and I was working with a guy in Boston, and he said, "Well, you should come to Boston. There's loads of loads of work for you if you want, So, but I didn't really fancy going to the US. And so we looked
Did you ever look down south?
South, like in South America? Oh, or Australia. Yeah, we would live. Well, the thing is that Australia is so far away from Europe. For me, going to Canada is already a big leap, because all my family is still in France, and it's really far from me, so I cannot see them very often. But going to Australia, it would have been even worse, and yeah, I didn't, as much as I think it's a great country, and I think it's very similar to Canada in a lot of ways, because you are open to immigration. It's a young country as well. The only big difference is the climate, of course. But apart from that, I was looking at going to Canada, because it's actually there's all sorts of political agreements between France and Canada, especially Quebec, because it's a French-speaking province. So it was the easiest way for me, and we kept our social security by coming here. There was all sorts of things that made it easy, And when I came here, easier, let's say. It's not that easy. But when we came here, it was already 2 years that I didn't have a job in France. But I came here, and with the kind of experience that I have in computer, especially, within 2 weeks I had 12 interviews and 3 offers. So I mean, that was a big difference for us. It made a whole difference. So that was a good thing, and I love the country. It's open, and I love the fact that it's one of the constituent values of the country is multiculturalism, which I really believe in. I'm French, but I'm 3/4 Italian from my grandfathers. I married a British woman. We adopted a child in China, and we live in Canada. And we are now both Canadian, So, so we are. I really believe in the fact that it's a wide world. It's a big world, and we're all part of it. And it's not about countries anymore. It's about being human, and being. And the whole internet itself has made things that so. Yeah, and there's no real distance anymore. There's a time difference sometimes, but there's no distance in terms of everything is there and accessible.
Yeah. Well, they're making apparently a plane now that's going to be able to travel. They're cutting the hours down, I think 4 hours, I think. I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I did read somewhere where it can go from Australia to London in yeah, I don't know, maybe it's
like there was what's called the supersonic
I don't know if Richard Branson's behind
at one
this.
At one point you could go from Paris to New York in about an hour or two. Like that, so it's probably something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
You're pretty amazing. Now, in your apartment, although you say you listen to a lot of your music on your headphones, but what about, when you like to play guitar, and hopefully your neighbours, you offer them lots of free things, do you?
No, I don't. Well, for one, I don't play.
Play with them for free.
I don't play too loud for one. As I said, I don't feel the need for that. And secondly, I'm using for recording electric guitar in particular. I'm using what is called it's a Kemper Profiler amplifier, and it's actually an emulator of all sorts of amplifiers, basically, but it's all in the box, and I can play and plug my guitar. There's everything on there, and you can choose the kind of amps you want. You want a Marshall, you want a Vox, you want a Fender, you want a Roland, you want whatever, and all sorts of effects. And you can have all sorts of, and it emulates the cabinets of the amps itself and everything. And you can play with your headphones if you want, or you can play just on your monitors, but at low level, and you will still have the impression that you're playing on a big Marshall stack, and it's great.
Yeah, so, I'm looking at your rig, your photo of your of your setup. I love the lava lamp.
Well, it's important, very important.
Helps you get in the mood,
I wrote
right?
about that. Yeah, exactly. You need that. If you don't have that, you don't have a studio, basically.
What I've got in here, I've got I've got a wombat. Hang on.
Wombat?
Where's my lava lamp? My daughter gives me lots of these things.
Oh, okay. I didn't send you a wombat. We don't have that here.
We have wombats. We have wombats here.
That.
We have echidnas and
Yeah.
So explain what's in your studio and your setup. I can see your monitors and your are those Logitech's little speakers there. You like to listen to different kinds of everything different.
Yeah, I try to. I can easily switch from one set to another. So I have 3 pairs of monitors. The main ones are JBL, LSR 2300, something like that, and I have a sub as well. I don't use too much the sub, actually. It doesn't need to. The space is it's not a big place anyway, so it's really. I bought that because I thought, well, it might help to assess the low end. But actually, doesn't make too much of a difference. I would have to really crank that up, and then the neighbors would appreciate.
So what's that little box down on the left-hand corner?
Well, the thing on the right is the Kemper is a profiler. The thing looks like a toaster. It's called
a
lot of people call that the toaster, and it is actually, and it's really you cannot really see in the photos because it's too bright, but there's all sorts of really nice LEDs with all sorts of colors. Right. Okay, the toaster. Yeah, that's the toaster and it's amazing. Honestly, it's all you can actually find profiles, what they call profiles, because they basically record with a mic, and you can record your own amps as well. You can record them. It creates all sorts of frequencies, and it analyzes them after that, and it actually, what they say, it captures the soul of your amp, and it does. It's actually absolutely amazing. And more in studios, producers are actually using that instead of having 12 different kinds of amps, and it's because most of the time,
I haven't seen that.
no one can tell the difference. Some people say, well, it's not exactly the same kind of response that you have play. And yes, you don't have response of a Marshall stack, which is going to, make you jump as soon as you play a chord, course, you're not going to feel it in your stomach. Okay, fine. But apart from that, the sound itself, when you hear it and when you record it, in the end, it's just the same thing. And most people would never think that I've been using that kind of thing. And it's really well known. It's actually one of the first things that I bought because I was really looking for something like that, because I knew I couldn't really have big amps, and especially not because I like to have all sorts of different sounds available to me depending on the kind of mood or the kind of sound I'm looking for. And I was really looking for something that could give me that, if at one point I want something more crunchy or more, there's also, and you can find thousands and thousands of profiles, what they call profiles of amps online. It's just a simple file that you can download. It goes directly on that with a USB. It goes through digitally directly in my computer. So it's all digital from there. And
that's amazing.
You know it. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I love that. It's the first thing I bought. It cost me a fortune, but honestly, I don't regret it. If I had to buy half of the amps that I've been using on all sorts of recordings, I would have paid 10 times what I've paid for this one.
Yeah.
So and it's just so convenient. I mean, it's just crazy. And as I said, more and more in real studios, people are actually using that because you can record the sound. It's just like on a DAW, you can record your mix, but with that you can record the exact parameters that you had and have exactly the same sound that you have when the such band came to your studio and they played, and you record that with and you recorded the amps that they have been using and the kind of settings that they've been using. And if 10 months later, if they say that they want to adjust that or do another dub, you just record that and you're going to have exactly the same sound.
It's so much simpler. It's like simplifying everything, and that's great. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, that'll be nice.
I'll send you a link to that.
Okay.
If you're curious, it's really great. Yeah, I love it.
Is there going to be another single release before the album release?
Yeah, well, what I want to do is this one, and actually I'm releasing singles, but it's really more for radios than anything else, and to start to build some buzz around it and to have people listen to it. But singles, in any case, even if you release an album, people can pick and choose whatever song they want to download. So it's not really an album anymore, except when you have physical CDs, which I want to do, of course, but what I want is to push one song at a time to radios, and not send the whole album and they pick whatever they want, because then it kind of dilutes the whole thing, and they don't, instead of having the impact of having one song that you can hear it everywhere. So I want to do that one at a time, and so I will probably do one or two more from that album at least. Yeah,
that makes sense.
The next one is probably going to. I'm probably going to choose the last song, which is quite different, just to surprise a little bit people and give them a taste of what it can be and be
mix it up a bit.
Intrigued about it. So
you said you were going to do some physical releases, which I think is amazing, because I also read somewhere that people aren't buying physical stuff. However, I know in this house they are, including my 14-year-old daughter. She's writing to My Chemical Romance at the moment. And stuff at the moment. She's 14, turning emo. Although she'd hate for me to kind of say that. She says, I'm not emo. But you with black nails.
Yeah. Just like Sarah said, didn't like that I said that she was into pop music. She said, no, I'm not listening to pop music. No, okay, you're not listening to, but it's mainly not top 40
but it's
pop,
popular music.
Kind of. Yeah. Kind of, it's young.
That's
young
okay,
stuff.
Sarah. I like pop music too. It's okay. It depends. There's different forms of pop as well. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's nothing.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's there's all sorts of great things in all genres of music, and I've it's just some of the things that she listened to are quite good. Some I'm not convinced of, but that's a thing. I mean, everyone has likes and dislikes, and that's fine. That's what makes music great. You will find people who likes, I don't know, the sound of an airplane in the headphones,
or sirens going or something. I mean, genres are also it's so loose now. You really, there's so much fusion involved in almost every genre. It can't really be.
Which is good. Actually,
I think it's
good.
great.
We
and the only reason we put genres up on the site is just to help the user or the general person somehow guide them into kind of an area. So there might be, I might have pop rock on one genre because it's like, it's a bit of a fusion, or there might be acoustic pop, but it might,
Yeah, remember you put mine under metal.
Yeah, did I?
Wow. Metal, I'm the farthest possible I can be from metal music, but okay, why not?
I have to actually keep changing the page names, which means I have to keep updating the submit the site and everything to Google every time I change the name of a page. And the thing is, you can't have a page with the same name, so you have to change. So I've got to actually change it. So instead of, if I have, let's say, 3 rock artists on 1 month, I can't just have them all labelled as rock. It's got to be, what do I do? Indie rock, pop rock, rock metal, so I have to mix it up a little bit. So it just gives you, I guess, like I said, the people who maybe aren't musicians as such, I guess the general person out there, I guess it just gives them an idea of what it's like. Hence why I put those also other established artists to give an idea about maybe, an idea of what the music is like. So, look, I love talking to you, Ghostly Beard. It's been awesome.
Well, it's been awesome to me, and we've been saying that we should have a talk one of these days, and I'm me, I like what you do. I like following and supporting and everyone that is doing great stuff in this indie world, which is a little world, but everyone that is
great
putting
community.
Their heart in, I'm all for supporting them, and we should stick together, and it's important to me. To
you can only grow when you stick together.
Exactly. I mean that's, for me, music is a sharing thing. You share what you like, you share things that you love, and there's no competition for me in my mind at all. I mean, when I listen to other bands and I like what they do, I want nothing more than for them to succeed, and to be able to live from it if they can, and it's not going to hurt me.
No, well, I don't know.
I mean, people like to listen to all sorts of things, and they will listen to this band. Doesn't mean that they will not listen to the music I do. Yeah. So it's all about sharing, and the more you share the music of the others, the more they will share yours as well. And that's the same thing for radios who are doing good in this world, and for blogs and magazines like yours, and promoting like you do. I mean, when you win, I win, so I have all the interest of supporting you and supporting you back, and the more you have listeners or readers, and the more they will be exposed to all sorts of good music. So it's
I definitely agree. The competition thing is something that I just don't get, and I think that's it's kind of like an old mindset. I think that people that do get used to the idea and understand how sharing one another actually helps them as well. I mean, like you said, not everybody likes, look, I like Pink, but I also like, I like, sorry, the first person that comes to mind at the moment, I don't know why, is Al Jarreau. So
I love him.
two completely different people, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, I like Janet Jackson, the old Janet Jackson. You know, I like classical music too. I train in classical. So, hey, there's
it doesn't mean because you like one thing that you're not going to be ignoring all the rest, and you will be able to enjoy all sorts of music. And
and I love Clean Bandit. You know, at the moment, I mean, they were very in for me a little while ago. So, and just, I know I said we were going to wrap it up. I do have one more question.
Yeah.
You said, you know, talking about indie artists and you wanting to help them. In what way, other than sharing their music? You mentioned about production somewhere.
Yeah.
So what, you're going to have a heap of stuff in your letterbox or via your email account, and you're going to have all these artists wanting to remix all their tracks.
No, I'm not into remix. Actually, I'm not into remix at all. I find that a bit boring, honestly. I'm more into, you know, when I hear a band or an artist who has some good voice, good songs, but it sounds like shit. It sounds like recorded with an iPhone in the bathroom. I'm thinking, well, you know, you should try and present your music in a different way. You should try and work on your arrangement, and I think I can help with that. I can help with when I say production is as much in terms of trying to help them find the best arrangement or work on the arrangement, or even just giving them feedback. You know, I'm happy to do that. And some artists have been sending me their recordings, and I've been giving them feedback, and I have no problem with that. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I'm gonna say what I think, and I'm gonna try and find the positive thing about it, because I don't want to put down anyone. It's not the question of that. I'm trying to make them get to a better sound or a better arrangement, makes the song a better thing, if I think that it's worth it. If the song is shit, then maybe I will tell you, well, maybe you should try to work on another song. This one is, but that will be my opinion, of course. And, you know, they take what they want out of it. But I would love to be able to help people with that. Helping them with the mix, helping them with mixing and producing and do that kind of thing. I'm not into remix as such. I've been into all sorts of websites and forums where we were doing a lot of mixes and stuff like that, and some of them are into remixes. But I think that most of the time a song is meant to be in some way, and when you mangle it so much that it doesn't resemble anything that it was intended to be, then it's not, most of the time it's not a success. I don't like it usually. Some of them can be good, but it's very rare. I like the song as it was intended to be, and as good as possible, of course. But a remix is not really what I'm trying to propose here. I'm trying to
constructive criticism, I suppose.
Criticism and maybe help with some parts, even musically, if they accept it. I can work with them on arrangements and stuff like that. But I would probably not do that with anyone. I would love to do that with artists that I feel akin to, you know, or close enough musically to be doing that.
Yeah.
You know? And then promoting, help with their promotion, help them to be there, and write about them, share their music, help put them into radios that I know, and some in front of some people that I know, you know, that kind of thing I can help, and I want to do more and more of that in the future.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Ghostly Beard, for this amazing chat that we had, and
that was my pleasure, really. More than that, it was a real treat to be able to hear your voice and your lovely accent.
I don't actually talk like, you know, they say the Kiwi Cobber beauty, mate. You know, I don't really speak like that.
Guest Talks with Tracy Arvon from musictalks.xyz.